G'day guys, and welcome to this business management lesson. In today's lesson, we're looking at key knowledge point 136. That is Unit 1, Area of Study 3, and the sixth key knowledge point for this area of study. Today specifically, we're looking at global considerations, and helpfully, this key knowledge point gives us a list of the different global considerations you need to know. Those are overseas competitors, overseas markets, offshoring labor, exchange rates, patenting, copyrights, trademarks, and online sales. Now, I'll remind you that this is the fifth key knowledge point from this area of study that deals specifically with factors from the macro environment, and that we define the macro environment as being the source of factors, forces, and stakeholders that have an indirect impact on your business, and that your business is unlikely to have any control over whatsoever. Some businesses might have some influence over these things, but when it comes to global considerations, there's almost no example of a business that can impact the concept of globalization at all. Now, global issues are largely presented opportunities and threats in response to the concept of globalization. In modern economics, in modern business, you are not limited by the political or geographical borders of the country where your business is headquartered. Even Australia, so far away from everything else in the world, it's possible to start a business here and sell products or services to customers in Europe or in the United States or really anywhere on Earth. And similarly, if you're a customer looking for a particular product in Australia, with the use of the internet, you can buy pretty much whatever you want from pretty much anywhere on Earth. In this way, the economy is pretty much globalized. There aren't limits in terms of geography to a business's reach. And this presents some opportunities and some threats in the sense of overseas competitors, overseas markets, offshoring labor, those global issues named in the key knowledge point that we're going to talk about today. Now, overseas competitors are not necessarily going to be operating under the same conditions as your business. It's quite possible that overseas competitors might be much, much bigger than your business and able to take advantage of economies of scale. It might be that your overseas businesses are operating their operations or their production in countries with much lower cost of living and much lower wage requirements, so they're able to produce their outputs with much less cost to the business. And there will be other businesses that are able to take advantage of surplus labor pools. There might be businesses operating in countries with higher quality inputs. Whatever it is, your overseas competitors might have concepts or aspects of their business that they can leverage for competitive advantage. Amazon is an example of a business that is an overseas competitor. They are pretty much an American business that is able to sell product to consumers in all sorts of countries, including Australia, and their ability to provide books and tools and electronics with sometimes even up to same-day delivery or next-day delivery, uses that convenience as a competitive edge that has put a lot of pressure on domestic businesses that might not necessarily be able to match the same level of convenience. Certainly, also, Amazon is famous for having very low prices on some of their products, which has put pressure on competitors that aren't able to price match. In some other ways, however, these globalized market conditions can present opportunities where competitors might be a threat. The fact that you can then market your business to customers all over the world and sell your products to customers all over the world presents an opportunity for business managers. And it might be that coming to understand different societal cultures or attitudes found in different regions gives you an opportunity to distribute your products more broadly. This isn't the case for every business, and this example of Vegemite is one that we know is going to remain pretty well appreciated just here at home in Australia. However, an example of a business that leveraged this well is that in the mid-2010s, 2014, 2015, UGG Australia did such a good job of marketing their product that UGG boots became a real fashion statement, particularly for in the United States. And during that period, it was quite possible that you'd be walking down a street in New York or in Hawaii and see a Prada store and a Versace store, and then right there in between them in the high-end fashion districts, an UGG Australia store selling UGG boots. I was there at that time. I witnessed it for myself. It was really quite unusual to see, considering our attitude to UGG boots is that they're a perfectly fine slipper, but not exactly haute couture or high-end fashion. Now, when it comes to the concept of offshoring labor, we're talking specifically about hiring workers or creating jobs in a country other than the country where your business is headquartered to take advantage, or rather to fulfill some duty for your business in that country. It might be that a manufacturing business decides to close its factories in Australia and open new factories in China and hire Chinese workers to work in those factories. And that would be offshoring labor because the business is still paying those workers. However, another example might include that Qantas services their planes at Los Angeles International in the USA. And when a Qantas flight flies from Sydney to Los Angeles and lands at LAX, Los Angeles International Airport, there are Qantas engineers and technicians on the ground ready to do safety checks and maintenance and servicing on that Qantas plane when it's landed. Now, not dissimilarly to offshoring labor, outsourcing is another example of when a business utilizes labor in another country. However, outsourcing is quite different in the sense that outsourcing is typically when you hire another business that will have their own employees to take care of some aspect of your business operations. For example, many businesses, many fashion businesses or clothing businesses don't manufacture their products themselves. They'll recruit factories, they'll send them the designs and negotiate over prices, etc., but have those other factories manufacture products for them. And certainly if you have been on the phone to many businesses regarding customer relations issues, certainly if you called the banks or call your phone company, it's not terribly likely that the person who answers the phone works for the bank or for the phone company. It's quite possible the person you're speaking to works for a call center somewhere else that have scripts and training about how to deal with customers on behalf of this company, while these employees that you're speaking to on the phone still don't necessarily work for that company. Now, it's important to understand that these two concepts are not mutually exclusive. A business like Qantas can outsource its customer relations and offshore some of its maintenance labor for its aircraft and do those both successfully at the same time. Now, exchange rates are one of the things you need to consider when doing business internationally. Currently, the Australian dollar is worth about 0.67 cents to the United States dollar, but this will fluctuate up and down over time. As you can see just above me, it rises and falls as economic forces swing into and out of effect. Right now, the way that the dollar is looking means that an American who spends an American dollar is going to stretch further. If they're buying products from Australia, they'll get more bang for their buck. And it also means Australian businesses can attract purchasing and investment from Americans who are looking to get more bang from their buck. So in this way, a much bigger economy like the American economy can be of benefit to the Australian economy. As long as the Australian dollar is worth less than the American dollar, we can attract companies like Marvel to continue to film movies in Sydney because they can get more out of their money by doing it here. And we can also attract tourists from the United States who are looking to come to Australia with perhaps $1,000 to spend and get a bit over $1,000 worth of value out of their money because of the exchange rate. And finally, for this key knowledge point, if you are a creator of anything, if your business has unique logos and unique designs, or if your band writes songs, or if you're an author who writes books, or if you're an inventor and you come up with some new way of doing things or some new invention, some new component, then you'll want to make sure that other people aren't just copying your inventions, your creations, and profiting off them. And that's where trademark, copyrights, and patents come in. These are all legal protections that you can use to protect your intellectual property. Trademarks are typically used for single words or phrases or mottos or symbols or logos or perhaps a cover design. the Nike swoosh, the McDonald's M, the Nike Just Do It, or the McDonald's I'm Loving It would all be subject to trademarks. Cadbury's use of purple with chocolate would be subject to a trademark. These are icons that inspire people to think of the business when they see them. And so that's what trademarks are designed to protect. Copyright gives authors or creators exclusive rights to the material they've published. So that could be the content of a news article or the narrative in a book or a series of stories. It could be the lyrics and composition of songs, but typically it's more complex creation than just a logo or just a slogan. And finally, if it doesn't fit into either of those two categories, it's probably eligible for a patent. Patents can protect ways of doing things. They can protect policies or procedures. They also protect inventions and the structure and composition of different mechanical components. It is useful to be able to apply for or hold these protections, these legal protections for intellectual property, because then that will entitle you, and certainly most courts globally recognize these legal protections. That will protect you from having people rip off your ideas. And if you own these protections, you'll be able to sue people for ripping off your ideas if it happens. Certainly, you might be familiar with the reputation that businesses like Disney have for being particularly litigious in protecting their trademarks. And there are all sorts of stories of kindergartens that have Mickey Mouse and other Disney characters painted on the wall getting very threatening legal letters from Disney threatening to sue because their trademarks being infringed upon. In summary for this key knowledge point, globalization presents all sorts of opportunities and threats for your business. Whether or not you intend to take advantage of globalization, it's quite possible that your competitors will. And international competitors, as we've already said, might be leveraging cheaper labor or higher quality inputs, or just they might be very big businesses themselves that are able to create their own competitive advantages that put your business at risk. It's very important for a business manager to be aware of the opportunities and threats presented by globalization and be implementing plans in order to protect their business from these threats and to set themselves up for success in the face of these opportunities and threats. That's all for today. See you next time.